I implored him to continue without end. And he never stopped. A tale of betrayal. How could I have anticipated that the child who assisted me in setting up the coffee maker would enter my home, only for me to discover that I had carelessly left my toys and some rather intimate clothing strewn across the couch? Not to mention that everything would shift after that instant. Solitude enveloped me. However, as I ventured to acquire that coffee maker, it was the assistance of the gentleman at the store that ensured I wouldn't face solitude today. Who could have foreseen that an unseasoned youth would enter my life and steer it in such an unforeseen manner? Allow me to share it all with you. Since the outset, I find myself at 60 years of age, having been divorced for 15 years and navigating life in solitude. Naturally, there were instances that belonged solely to me, cherished possessions that held personal significance. Indeed, I employ them with such frequency that I scarcely realized I had inadvertently left them exposed in the heart of the living room. Perhaps it was merely a routine, or perhaps it served as my means of bridging the chasm of solitude. Regardless, that morning seemed utterly ordinary. My sole intention was to purchase a coffee maker and continue with my day. However, it was that young man, Jake, who transformed the entire situation with his offer of assistance. As I swung the door open and allowed him to enter with the box, I remained blissfully unaware that what began as an ordinary day was on the brink of transforming into something remarkable. At the age of 23, Jake radiated excitement, warmth, and an infectious energy that seemed to light up the room. Upon entering my home, coffee maker in hand, his gaze roamed over every nook and cranny of the space. At that moment, his gaze fell upon something intriguing: the toys and the personal articles of clothing I had carelessly abandoned on the couch. I had grown so accustomed to their presence that it had slipped my notice entirely. To me, they appeared to be the most unremarkable aspect of the house. Jake offered a subtle smile as he approached the living room and inquired, "You live alone, don't you?" His eyes sparkled with a mischievous curiosity. My face flushed a vivid crimson. It occurred with such abruptness and mortification that I found myself at a loss for how to respond. A simple task was at hand: to come and set up the coffee maker. Ultimately, I kept these intimate aspects of my life to myself. My solitude was a personal affair, and I had no desire to cast it upon another. "Jake, please, let's act as if you haven't seen any of this," I implored, my voice quivering just a bit. It seemed as though all my desires had abruptly shattered into pieces. Jake cast a glance my way, a smile gracing his lips. "As you wish," he responded. "However, it's clear that these matters are not easily dismissed. They certainly command attention, much like you do." That left me feeling even more flustered. I gradually averted my gaze and whispered, "Jake, please, remember to subscribe and activate notifications for more tales such as this. You won't be able to hold back from sharing your thoughts after you hear this one all the way through. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I eagerly anticipate your reflections." Yet, with his characteristic warmth and sincerity, he pressed on. "It's entirely normal to experience these feelings of solitude," he remarked, his eyes now glimmering with a newfound brilliance. "Each of us carries our own desires, wouldn't you agree? Yet, there are moments when this sort of thing simply falls short, wouldn't you agree?" The subtle emphasis in his words lingered at the end, resonating with a quiet intensity. He seemed to be making an effort to connect with me, reaching out in a manner that was simultaneously daring and tender. For a fleeting moment, our gazes intertwined. In that instant, a flicker ignited between us, a magnetic pull, an unvoiced allure, a subtle fervor. Jake's warm gaze enveloped me, a palpable presence that stirred something deep within. With each fleeting second, we drew nearer. Each word he uttered resonated deeply within me. In that moment, it dawned on me that what I was experiencing was unlike anything I had felt before. Jake remarked, "I noticed it the first time you came to retrieve the coffee maker," a peculiar spark dancing in his eyes. "You bestowed upon me an emotion unlike any I have ever experienced." I took a brief moment to gather my thoughts before responding. What words could possibly capture my thoughts? My emotions were in a tumultuous state. Yet, the struggle against this irresistible force seemed almost futile. "Text, I did the same for you," I replied, a faint smile gracing my lips. "Young man, under different circumstances, I would have never accepted your offer to assist and allowed you into my home." I stated that. Yet, within me, I was aware of a more profound sensation. Jake had somehow burrowed beneath my skin, his physique, his presence, his manner of speaking, everything about him captivated me. Utterly serene, undeniably captivating, the struggle to conceal my true emotions from my gaze was becoming increasingly difficult. A moment of silence lingered before I finally spoke, revealing that I had been clad in these jeans and this shirt for the entirety of the day. They are constricting my very breath, attempting to alleviate the strain. I shall take a moment to don something more suitable for relaxation. Feel free to settle in as if this is your own space. Jake's eyes held mine for a moment longer than necessary. I attempted to divert my gaze, even if only for a fleeting moment, yet I found myself unable to do so. There was an undeniable pull towards him, the distance that once separated us diminishing with each passing moment. Ascending the stairs, I donned a sleek, figure-hugging dress with delicate spaghetti straps. I applied a subtle enhancement to my makeup before gracefully making my way to the kitchen. As I descended, my gaze fell upon Jake, poised by the threshold of the living room. His gaze, whether by design or happenstance, was fixed upon me. For a fleeting moment I lingered, caught in a web of hesitation as my thoughts danced freely in the recesses of my mind. "Very well," I mused, "young man, your intentions are unmistakably evident. You feel like a stroke of luck in my life. Let us embrace the journey ahead." I pondered this quietly, then feigned ignorance of his gaze as I moved closer to him. "Jake," I said, my voice laced with a hint of mischief, "do you find yourself unattached? Do you have a girlfriend? Or do you find yourself in solitude during the night?" As I gazed upon him, a flicker ignited within me. We stood on the precipice of understanding, where each word, each gesture, each fleeting glance resonated with a profound significance. As I beheld the thrill and timid wonder reflected in his gaze, a smile gently blossomed on my lips. "Once you've completed the setup of the coffee maker, shall we brew some coffee together?" I uttered, scarcely aware of the subtle quiver that betrayed my composure. "Shall we engage in a conversation? Please share your story with me." As I approached him, a warmth began to swell within me. Every small detail about him draws me closer. Jake lowered himself into the chair, yet he found himself restless, fidgeting in a futile attempt to find comfort. I, in contrast, moved closer and positioned my chair directly beside his. As I positioned it securely beneath me, my skirt crept up slightly, just a few centimeters. Yet I was fully cognizant of it. Jake's gaze ascended, halting just shy of connecting with my own. His attentiveness was palpable, a true reflection of his sincerity. I cast a sidelong glance at him, attempting to measure the weight of this newfound intimacy, and a smile crept onto my lips. With a casual crossing of my legs, I let my arm drape over the back of my chair. "Were you filled with impatience as you awaited this moment?" I playfully teased, aiming to infuse the moment with a light-hearted spirit. Yet the unspoken tension between us steadily escalated. Jake, a hint of nervousness in his demeanor yet unwavering in his gaze, inquired, "How old are you?" His voice trembled ever so slightly, caught in the delicate balance of surprise and admiration. "I was under the impression you stood at 50 feet tall." A glimmer ignited within my gaze. Did he genuinely believe I was 50? That was intriguing and strangely complimentary. A smile crept onto my face, unbidden. "Do you have a preference for those who are 50 years old?" I playfully arched an eyebrow, scrutinizing him with keen interest. Every word, every fleeting moment shared between us drew us nearer, ignited by the intensity of the experience. The astonishment reflected in his gaze suggested he was utterly captivated by me. "No, that's not what I meant," he said, his voice tinged with a hint of shyness. "Your youthful beauty is truly captivating." His words reverberated within the confines of my mind. A gentle warmth enveloped me, yet concurrently a sense of unease washed over me. Being this close now, taking another step felt painful. A stillness enveloped us, a pause that lingered in the air. With a steadying breath, I posed the question, "Are you currently in a relationship? Do you find yourself in solitude? What do you do during your solitary nights?" I was both eager and slightly anxious to hear T's questions. Jake dropped his voice to a whisper, his gaze piercing into mine. "I'm alone," he remarked. In that instant, I was utterly convinced he was solitary, yet it was the sort of solitude he found himself reluctant to embrace. Our eyes met for a lingering moment, and I sensed he was aware of the fervor in my stare. A subtle transformation stirred within me as I lingered in anticipation. My emotions began to crystallize with remarkable speed, and I realized it was time to act. "That's not how tonight will unfold," I declared, my voice taking on a firmer, more resolute tone. My gaze returned to him, and each word I uttered resonated with significance. In that instant, I realized that everything was on the brink of transformation. "Jake, come," I urged, my voice softer than usual yet undeniably more welcoming. With a subtle glance, I directed my gaze toward the room that housed the bed and pivoted without a moment's pause. Certainly he would comply. I sensed his footsteps trailing behind me, his breath quickening ever so slightly. As we stepped into the bedroom, Jake paused just by the threshold. His shoulders bore a slight tension, yet his expression remained sharp and anticipatory. I pivoted to meet his gaze, and there, etched upon his features, was a blend of uncertainty and exhilaration. "Jake, are you prepared?" I inquired, my voice even and composed. I moved in a bit closer, a subtle smile gracing my lips as I spoke. "My experience is evident, wouldn't you agree? Take a deep breath, there's no reason to feel anxious." As I drew near, I laid my hand softly upon his shoulder. That subtle touch appeared to alleviate some of his tension, yet it simultaneously ignited a surge of excitement within him. In that instant, Jake's vibrant spirit collided with the assurance and resolve I had cultivated through the passage of time. I gently eased the straps of my dress down from my shoulders. The fabric whispered against my skin as it cascaded to the floor. Jake's gaze lingered on me. A blend of wonder, intrigue, and longing filled the air. A quiet turmoil brewed within, yet my demeanor remained composed. I edged nearer to him, the quietude enveloping us as if it were weaving an unspoken connection. My fingertips grazed his cheek softly, and then I lingered, anticipating his next move. Jake paused for a moment, yet ultimately he inclined himself toward me. His gaze was charged with determination and excitement. His hand gently settled on my waist, and his face inched closer to mine until our lips finally connected. His kiss embodied the audacity of youth, tinged with a whisper of naivety, yet that very innocence only captivated me further. With deliberate care, I retreated and approached the bed. I allowed myself to descend onto it with careful, unhurried grace. The chill of the surface against my skin sent a shiver through me, intensifying the anticipation that bubbled within. I cast a glance at Jake. He remained rooted in place, uncertainty clouding his next move. "Jake, come here," I called, my voice gentle yet inviting. I traced my fingers along the surface of the bed, gesturing toward the vacant space beside me. "Rest easy, there is no cause for fear." Jake inched nearer, taking his time as he gently settled down beside me. We seemed to be suspended in time, the atmosphere thickening with each passing moment. I turned to him, my hand resting lightly on his chest, and asked in a soft voice, "Have you ever contemplated this moment? Can you envision it, Jake?" Jake's gaze remained fixed on me, unwavering and intense. "More than merely envisioning it," he murmured, his voice soft and slightly trembling, yet I never believed it could truly come to pass. In that instant, every uncertainty was cast aside. We were intertwining not only with our physical selves but also with the depths of our emotions. Neither of us could predict the path ahead. Yet one truth stood unwavering in my mind. The thrill I experienced with Jake was a longing I had been pursuing. As I lay beside him, the excitement within me blossomed into a surge of bravery. I propped myself up at the edge of the bed, my eyes locked onto Jake as I gradually rose to my feet before him. As I leaned slightly towards him from the head of the bed, our eyes met, intertwining in a moment that held both surprise and anticipation in his gaze. "Jake," I said, my voice gentle yet firm. "This evening we find ourselves in each other's company." Jake swallowed with difficulty, his gaze unwavering. His silence conveyed a profound understanding of the gravity of my words. His hands clutched the edge of the bed with a fierce intensity, yet his eyes shimmered with newfound courage. With deliberate grace, I inched closer to his face, cradling his cheek softly in my hands. "Let us embrace this moment tonight," I murmured, drawing my lips nearer to his. "Refrain from questioning anything. Embrace the unknown with courage." Jake's breath came in rapid bursts, yet he remained steadfast, refusing to retreat, even for an instant. In that fleeting instant, we sought refuge from our solitude, drawing solace from the warmth of one another's company. Jake's breath came in rapid bursts. His eyes appeared to be striving to seize every detail of the moment, as if he wished to engrave it into his memory. He paused for a moment, then raised his hands to my waist, embodying a blend of courage and doubt. The initial reluctance transformed into a fervent longing. My breath eluded me, yet I sensed the moment resonating profoundly within. "Jake," I murmured, my fingers softly tracing the contours of his face. "This emotion is overwhelming, and it possesses a certain beauty." Jake maintained his gaze, responding in a voice that resonated deeply yet quivered with a tender warmth. "I share your sentiment, yet doesn't it seem like everything is unfolding at an astonishing pace? This emotion coursing through me is both powerful and exquisite. It's likely evident that I'm venturing into uncharted territory here." A smile blossomed upon my lips. I drew nearer and gently pressed my lips against his forehead. Jake, there are moments when life unfolds more beautifully when we refrain from overanalyzing. Embrace the moment and let it flow, I remarked with a comforting voice. Jake hesitated for a heartbeat, then let his hands glide gently from my waist, drawing me nearer as our breaths intertwined and the distance between us vanished. This moment held the potential to redefine our lives entirely. In a fleeting moment, Jake, panting and surrendering completely, allowed himself to be free. As I had predicted, he continued unabated, and the sensation was nothing short of extraordinary. As I reclined beside him in the aftermath, he appeared so content, as if he had finally released all his pent-up tension. Jake's powerful embrace enveloped me, drawing me in with a firm yet tender grip. My head lay against his chest, attuned to the steady cadence of his heartbeat. The cadence of the sound was at once calming and oddly invigorating. Unbeknownst to me, my fingers softly danced over the contours of his chest. Jake inhaled deeply, his voice barely above a whisper. Brittany, this sensation I'm experiencing at this moment, I've never known such tranquility and serenity before. His voice carried an intriguing blend of sincerity and astonishment. I smiled, yet I avoided his gaze, my head still nestled against his chest. Is that so? I whispered softly. Indeed, he persisted, softly moving one of his hands to my back, drawing me nearer. Throughout my existence, I have pursued an elusive something. I never imagined I would pause to savor a moment such as this, yet in this moment with you it renders everything worthwhile. His words enveloped me in a comforting embrace, igniting a warmth that radiated from within. As I reclined, attuned to the steady cadence of his breaths, I responded, Jake, simply being in your presence stirs emotions within me that have long lain dormant. Extraordinary! Jake's fingers wove gently through my hair, a tender smile gracing his lips. I suppose we've provided one another with precisely what we required, he remarked, lost in contemplation. I raised my gaze just enough to meet his eyes. The expression of sincerity and liberation etched upon his features conveyed everything that needed to be understood. Then let us simply leave it as it is, I remarked. Let us fully embrace this moment. Jake inclined his head, a silent affirmation passing between them. We lingered in that embrace, enveloped by the warmth of the moment, lost in one another. Outside, the quiet and dim light seemed to exist solely for our presence. With my head nestled against Jake's chest, I surrendered to the tranquility of the moment, allowing my eyes to flutter shut as serenity enveloped me. At that moment, a thought quietly slipped into my consciousness. I began to envision the possibility of inviting him to remain here with me, to transform this house, these serene nooks and solitary evenings, into something more vibrant with his company. The thought of including him in my life illuminated everything, making it feel more vibrant and complete. Naturally, I was unaware of the journey that awaited us, the thrilling days or profound connections that lay in our future. Yet, I was certain of one thing: our narrative was far from its conclusion. This marks merely the inception. Therefore, keep your eyes peeled. If you've journeyed this far, it's clear that my narrative has resonated with you. There is an abundance of insights waiting to be unveiled, and you certainly won't want to overlook them. Press that follow button, activate notifications, and be sure to leave a comment sharing your thoughts on this tale. I eagerly await your thoughts on this. Let's engage in a conversation in the comments section. Your support is invaluable to me,